response to going over some of New Boston's YouTube videos on JavaScript, beginning JavaScript, I created this little web page design. So looking at the code, we have our opening doc type declaration here, our opening and closing HTML tags, our opening and closing head tags. We have a style here that I'll go over in a minute, but when we go down to the body, opening and closing body tags, we have some JavaScript and script tags, and inside a div with the ID of wrapper, we have all of the rest of the elements, which, as you can see, we've got a table with table data cells, and underneath the table we have a div for a message area. So I'm going to start at the top. Inside of the head, I'm going to open up the style. For the body of the page, I gave it padding of 0 pixels and margin of 0 pixels auto. For the wrapper, pound wrapper means ID wrapper. Border has 7 pixels of navy ridge, and the float is left. If you don't put float left here, what happens is the blue border and the gold message area here will not hug the table when you open this page up. You open this page up, you see how right now it's hugging? Well, I misspelled that style, and so when I refresh this, after we go to 3 function calls, you see that it's no longer hugging the table, and I didn't like that. So when I gave the wrapper a style of float left, show you again, I've got to let these functions go, and I open this up, now the blue border hugs it. So the div that has the ID of wrapper now hugs everything, regardless of how wide your window is. Okay, so that was ID wrapper. For the table and the table data cell, I gave them a border of 7 pixels silver ridge. The table data cells got a width and height of 50 pixels each. Now, because the table has nothing in the table data cells right now, open at full window, you can see each table data cell is 50 by 50. But there's a little bit of squeezability here. If you make the window even smaller, your table data cells will squish in a little bit, and they also will expand depending on how much information is put in here. So it's got that dynamic stretchability. All right, down at the bottom where you see that message area, that's a div that's got an ID of message. It's got margin of 0 pixels auto, padding top of 50 pixels, border of 7 pixels gold ridge, height of 50 pixels, and text align of center. Well, I had to give the padding top of 50 pixels. Padding top of 50 pixels, let's misspell that so I can show you what happens if I take that style out and then refresh the page. Let's get through these 3 function calls. This is what 50 pixels height looks like without padding. When you add padding inside of the border, inside of the gold border, what it does is it puts when one of my functions puts a message in here, it's centered nicely, but one of the things that another function does is it calls an alert box, and the alert box covers up the message. So by putting a padding top of 50 pixels, it makes this larger because we have 50 pixels of blank space here, so that it shoves the message further down so that it doesn't get blocked by the alert box. So the message will now show way down here. When the alert box comes up, it's not over top of the message in the gold area. So that was the styles for the different things. The ID, the div with the ID of message, the TD tags, which represent the table data cells, the TD and table tags, which represent the table and TD tags, and the div with the ID of wrapper, and the body of the page itself. Let's close that up. Inside of the body, we've got script tags. This is the JavaScript part. The style is the CSS part, the cascading style sheets part. The script is the JavaScript part. And again, the scripts, most of the time you put scripts in the head, but this time I followed New Boston's script in the body. So we have a function called meatball, and this was New Boston's name. Function meatball, in parentheses we have an X, So this x is the parameter of the function. And there's only one line of code that happens when function meatball is called. We get the alert box that pops up, and inside the parentheses we have the string in double quotes I love with a space plus x. And x is whatever the value is that when you call meatball, whatever value you put in the parentheses to replace x, that's going to be added to I love. So here is the closing of the function. So now this is all the directions in the function. And here in line 40, 41, and 42, we're calling that function 3 times. So how you call a function is you call the name of the function, which is meatball, and then in parentheses, if there's a parameter in the function, in your parentheses when you call the function, you have to put an argument that replaces the parameter. So instead of meatball x, you have meatball and whatever you want to replace x with. In the first call, it's bacon. In the second call, it's Freeman. And in the third call, it's coding. So let me refresh the page so that you see that. You reload the page. I love bacon. So line 40 is running. When you click OK, line 41 is going to immediately run. I love Freeman. So now line 41, it has run. You click OK and line 42 will run. I love coding. Now when you click OK, the alert box just goes away because we only called meatball 3 times. So now we're done with the meatball function. We're done with the 3 meatball calls. Let's look at a couple more functions. I wrote function high a couple ways. The first way I've commented out because I don't want to use it like that, but this uses an alert box. So function high, empty parentheses means there's no parameters, and then in the curly braces, alert, and in parentheses and double quotes, the string hi there. You end that statement with a semicolon. So when we called the function hi before this recording, you got an alert box that said hi there. I didn't want to use an alert box, but for example purposes, I did, and then I commented out because I preferred to do it this way. Function hi, empty parentheses, and in the curly braces we have document.getElementById, by ID, and in parentheses and double quotes 1.innerHTML equals the string hi there baby. And then after the string hi there baby, you close up that statement with a semicolon, and you close up the function with its closing curly brace. So this time when the hi function is called, it's going to go to whatever element on your page that has a 1. It's going to go to that and put hi there baby inside that element. Well, this particular web page gives the first table data cell that ID. So when I hover over it, I get hi there baby. Now, when I hover out of it, the by function is called. And actually, quite a few things happen at that point. Let me refresh this page again and just leave it at that, because I don't want you to see the function running until I go over the functions. Here's the by function. Function by, nothing in parentheses, and we've got 2 statements in the function's curly braces. The first statement is document.getElementById, parentheses, the string 1.innerHTML equals bye baby. So hi there baby is going to be replaced with bye there baby in that same spot. And after that we use the set timeout. After set timeout in the parentheses we have tickle, comma, 4000. So what this set timeout function is going to do is that after 4 seconds it's going to call the tickle function. So you see that we're rolling functions here. I guess you can call them chaining functions. A function calls another function. And this time you use set timeout, so it's like a timer, we'll call it. After bye baby replaces hi there baby, in 4 seconds we call tickle. So let's look at tickle. Function tickle does basically the same thing. The first statement is document.getElementById, the string 18.innerHTML equals coochie coo, I tickle to you. Now we're targeting a different place in the page. This time, whatever element has the ID of 18, which is the last table data cell, we are going to get coochie coo, I tickle you inside of that one. We have another set timeout, which after 4 seconds we're going to call the A function. Okay, so let's look at the A function. The A function is similar yet again. Document.getElementById, in the parentheses, we have the string 18.innerHTML equals the string you are so cute. So we're targeting that element that has the ID of 18. So in the tickle function, we put the inner HTML as coochie coochie coo, I tickle tickle you, but when A runs, we're replacing that coochie coochie coo thing with you are so cute. And in 4 more seconds, we're going to call the B function. So let's look at the B function. In the B function, we have a for loop. So for var I equals 1, I less than or equal to 3, I plus plus. All right, the for loop is going to start at line 62, and the loop ends, if I click right here in front of the opening curly brace, the loop ends right here at line 80. Var is created to have an initial value of 1. Here's the condition, I less than or equal to 3. If that condition is true, we're going to run this loop, and running the loop means running everything inside there. Well, running everything inside there as long as the if conditions are true. Let's put it that way. So I starts off at 1. We ask the question, well, first I starts off at 1, and this is true. 1 is less than or equal to 3. Since that's true, now we're going to move on down to the next line. If I is equal to 1, that's true. So since that's true, everything in these curly braces here will execute. Document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string 1.innerHTML equals an empty string. So whatever information was in the table data cell with the ID of 1 will now disappear. Now that table data cell will be empty. The same thing happens to the table data cell that has the ID of 18. Document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string 18.innerHTML equals an empty string. So those two table data cells will now be empty. The third statement, document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string message. Now we're targeting a totally different element, and that's the element with the gold border. .innerHTML equals the string count to 3, and I'll magically disappear. All right, we did all of that because I started off at 1 in this for loop. Now we have another condition here, else if I is equal to 2. Well, that else if is going to run if this was not true. And even when you get to this line of code, I is not equal to 2 at this point, so that's a false statement. So everything inside there gets ignored. The else only runs if all of the previous ifs were false. So this gets ignored at this point. But outside of this else, we have, right before the end of the loop, we have one more statement, and this will run. We have alert. In the parentheses, we have the string count, colon, a space, plus I. So we want to see the alert box say count 1, because right now the value of I is 1. Now we're down to line 80, which is the end of the for loop. Well, now that we're at the end of the for loop, this part up here, the I++, will execute. So now I turns into 2. The condition, before it goes inside of the for loop, the condition has to be tested first. So is 2 less than or equal to 3? Well, yeah, that is true. So we're going to go on inside here and we're going to check these conditions. Is 2 equal to 1? No. So all that gets ignored. Is 2 equal to 2? Yes. So everything inside of these curly braces gets executed, which is document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string message.innerHTML equals the string 1 more to go, and poof. So that element that had the gold border is now going to have this text inside of it. 1 more to go, and poof. Again, because this one was true, this else gets ignored. But the alert pop-up box will say count 2. Now we're at the end of the loop, so this increment is going to happen again. 2 is going to become 3. Then this condition is going to be tested. Is 2 less than or equal to 3? No, I'm sorry, when 2 becomes 3, is 3 less than or equal to 3? Well, 3 is not less than 3, but 3 is equal to 3, so this is still true. Is 3 equal to 1? No. Is 3 equal to 2? No. So now we will obey what's inside of the else block, which is this. Document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string message, .innerHTML equals the string poof. So now the information inside of the gold bordered element says poof. And the alert pop-up says count 3. All right, we're at the end of the loop again, so now we're going to do the increment. 3 becomes 4. We're going to test the condition. Is 4 less than or equal to 3? No. Now it's false. So now since it's false, everything in our loop gets ignored. All of it gets ignored. All of it. And we jump down here to line 82, which is outside of the loop. And outside of the loop, we have document.getElementById, parentheses, parentheses, double quotes, message.innerHTML equals an empty string. So now everything is cleared out. There's nothing in table data cell 1, there's nothing in table data cell 18, and there's nothing in div with the ID of message. And that is the end of the for loop, and it's also the end of the script because we didn't add any other functions. All right. So I can show you this running. Right now, when the page has been refreshed, you see the I love bacon. That's line 40 running. It's calling the meatball function with the argument of bacon that replaces the function's parameter x. When I click OK, this meatball function is going to run. When I click OK to that one, this meatball function is going to run. So the first one is I love bacon, the second one is I love Freeman, the third one is I love coding, and then when we click this again, we see no more alert boxes because we didn't call meatball anymore, so we didn't call this function anymore. We only called it 3 times. All right, so now let's get out of that. Down in our this function, here's the function hi, here's the function by, here's the function tickle, here's the function a, here's the function b. So we created 5 other functions after the meatball function, and we went over the instructions for all of those. But let's look in the wrapper and remind ourselves of what's being targeted. The table data cell with the ID of 1 is being targeted. On its on mouse enter event, we call the hi function. And then on its on mouse leave event, we call the by function. So here's where the hi function runs. Here's where the by function runs. It's when you mouse over this table data cell with an ID of 1. All the rest of these table data cells are empty. There's nothing in it, and there's no IDs, and so they're not being targeted with any CSS styles or any JavaScripts. Then if you look down here, you have TD with an ID of 18. That's the last table data cell. That's this one right here. That's going to be affected by our JavaScript. And down here underneath the table, you have the div with the ID equals a message. The JavaScript's going to target that too. Those are the only 3 things in the page that get targeted. So I am going to, on mouse enter, TD with the ID of 1 so you can see hi run. As soon as I mouse out of that and I do the on mouse leave event, it's going to immediately run the by function. And remember now, when we run the by function does a couple of things. It does something with the text, the inner HTML inside of the first table data cell, and then it calls this set timeout, which after 4 seconds calls tickle, and then tickle changes the inner HTML of the table data cell with an ID of 18, and then it calls its own set timeout, which after 4 seconds calls the a function, and then here's the a function, which will change the inner HTML of the table data cell with the ID of 18, and then it calls its own set timeout, which after 4 seconds calls b, and then here's b that uses the for loop that takes when I is 1, the first iteration of the loop is going to clear out any text that's inside of table data cell 1, any inner HTML that's inside of table data cell 18, and it's going to give the div with the ID of message the text count to 3 and I'll magically disappear. That's the first iteration of the loop. When I becomes 2, it's going to do this stuff. document.getElement by ID message enter HTML, one more to go, and poof. When it's the third iteration, it's going to document.getElement by ID message enter HTML equals poof. Just poof. Each time, the first, second, and third iteration of the loop, it's also going to pop up count plus the value of I. Count 1, count 2, count 3. So when this is running, when I equals 1, and it is emptying out table data cell 1, table data cell 18, and putting this message in div with the ID of message, when it does this, it's also going to do this in the first iteration of the loop. When it does this, it's also going to do this in the second iteration of the loop. We're going to see the alert say count 2. And then when it does this on the third iteration, it's also going to give us the alert that says count 3. And then at the very end, when it jumps out of the loop, it clears out everything. So let's watch it in action, knowing that it's going to go by kind of fast. Starting at the beginning, there's the three meatball calls. I love bacon, I love Freeman, I love coding. Enter here, hi there baby. Leave here, bye bye baby. Come over here and watch what happens here. Coochie coochie coo, I tickle tickle you. It's doing its little, oh here, you are so cute, after 4 seconds. Then, after 4 seconds, we get an alert box and a message down here, count 1, count to 3, and I'll magically disappear. When I click OK, it's going to jump to the next part, count 2, one more to go, and poof. I click again, count 3, poof. I click again, and everything's going to be cleared out. So that's how all this worked. Oh, all right. Before I close this out, we went over the script, and this is like my second or third time I'm trying to record this, so I think I'm not sure if we went over all of the body. We did all the script in the body, but I don't think we did all of the elements. So we have the div ID equals wrapper, which the CSS style gives this blue border. Then we have an opening table tag. Opening table tag is in line 87. Closing table tag is way down here at line 116. Nested inside of the table, we have 3 table rows. As you can see, the first table row goes from 88 to 96. The second table row goes from 98 to 105. And the third table row goes from 107 to 114. The first table row has the table data cell that we're targeting with our JavaScript. TD ID equals 1, mouse enter equals high, on mouse enter equals high, on mouse leave equals by. This is what you do when you want to run the high function using the on mouse enter, and when you want to run the by function using on mouse leave, that's how you do that. You put it right inside the opening table data cell. Here we have a bunch of empty table data cells. And then you go to the second table row, which has 6 empty table data cells. We're not targeting any of those at all. And then we have the third table row, where the only table data cell that we target is the last one. And because we're targeting the last one, we give it an ID. ID equals 18. And so the JavaScript messes with that. Then we have the end of the table. And here's another thing on the page that we're targeting with our JavaScript. Div ID equals message, end div. Again, you put the ID of what you want to target in the opening div tag. This one, not this one. This one right here is the closing div tag. You stick that functionality in the opening div tag, that part. You also put on click events, on mouse enter events, on mouse leave events, whatever events that you want, you put it inside of the opening tag. You'd never put anything in a closing tag of an element. At least I've never learned that you put anything in a closing tag. It's always in the opening tag. Alright, so there's the ID of message, div with the ID of message, the ending div of the wrapper, the ending body tag, and the ending HTML. And with that, that completes this entire tutorial, which shows you simple HTML elements, simple CSS style sheets and simple JavaScripts that manipulate some of those HTML elements.